Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Endless Celts Podcast. Hope you're well who's listening. I'm Stephen, the host of the Endless Celts Podcast, and I'm delighted to be joined alongside by two show regulars, Ross and Francis. How are you both?
Good, mate.
Yeah, all good.
Had a nice wee holiday, a wee week away there, so I'm all refreshed and ready to go with a bit to say.
Looking forward to that. I mean, this is going to be a crucial week for Celtic. I mean, we're going into Denmark to play Midjtylland with 1-1 in aggregate. We'll get on to that soon. First of all, I want to kind of focus on the last pre-season game there against West Ham, which is our final pre-season game of the campaign anyway, of the pre-season kind of training camps and stuff. And we lost 6-2. Now, it was quite a sobering result. But before we get on to some negatives, I want to focus on some positivity. Now, people will be shocked to hear me say that, but I actually do. I want to look at the Celtic goals, because I thought the two goals that were scored were from good high pressing play. And that, for me, is the kind of play Postecoglou wants to install in Celtic. Ross. Now, the first goal was Callum McGregor took it off the midfielder, and he had the chance to play Christian, but he composed himself, whipped it round the defender when in the bottom corner at the left hand side of the goals. And then the second goal was a cross ball in, Ryan Christie following up, getting it in. I mean, the keeper made a mistake, but did you see the positivity coming out in them goals in terms of style that Postecoglou wanted to play?
Aye, definitely. You sort of summed it up perfect. It just, again, like when I spoke previously about it was the Sheffield Wednesday game, they won the ball high and they punished the opposing team with winning it so high and then just taking their chance, basically. But McGregor's finish was absolutely sublime. Just like you said, the way he composed himself, and if you watch it in slow motion, it bounces like maybe 4 or 5 times, and it's obviously getting lower the more it bounces, and he just it's actually no on the ground when he catches it, and he just catches it so sweet. It's just slightly off the ground, but that can be difficult to take a shot like that, and he's just had it perfect. And Christie, again, another really good goal. Obviously, like you said, the keeper made a mistake, but he was just the whole game. He was a ball of energy, and he's shown glimpses again for me. And if his head's want to be with us, then it's a guy you want to sort of make part of the team going forward, because I certainly think that he is geared up for Angie's style in terms of how he plays the game. So there were two great goals, but obviously we'll touch on the rest of the game shortly. But the rest of it wasn't fantastic.
That, as you said there, Ross, that McGregor goal, that ball was bouncing. See, if I had hit that, guaranteed corner flag all day long, like, you know what I mean? But it's the way he composed himself, Francis, and the way he took it. It was like the McGregor of old. We kind of missed that last season, him getting forward and hitting shots. And I think Ross makes a brilliant point in regards to Christie. I think probably until he took off? I think he did get took off, yeah. And up until then, he's probably one of the best players on the pitch for Celtic in regards to the team sense. There was times in the first half the ball was getting whipped to him. He's controlling it first touch, taking over their fullback's head and all. I thought he was fantastic. And I said in the previous podcast, if his head's in it and he wants to play for the team and he wants to sign that contract, then by all means keep him. He seems to be making an impression on the left-hand side, doesn't he, Francis?
Oh, most definitely. Like I said on the previous podcast, he's slightly out of position still, but it's probably more favoured because it's on the left-hand side and he's a wee bit more confident because it's predominantly left foot. But his goal was nice. Like you just touched on, it was a goalkeeping error, but he's coming inside to the middle of the park, like the penalty spot area in the middle of the goal for the cross coming from the other side. And like, I know that's pretty an old sort of simple style, but it's kind of what you want your left and right wingers to do when the opposition guy's crossing it in. You want the other guy coming in at the back post and what like. So I have been really impressed with Ryan Christie, and like you say, if his head is in the right place, I think he's a major asset for us.
It is kind of not hard for me to say, but it's like eating my own words from last season, because
it's the man you love to hate.
I was adamant that Christie should leave along with his big head, go down to England or go abroad, wherever he was going to end up. But again, it's like, if he can produce them performances, and as you said, he's still getting slightly played out of position, but his energy doubles up for that, because on the left-hand side, he can cut in. I think the right-hand side for me was a bit he's a bit one-dimensional. He didn't get the best of Christie there.
You would actually think the right hand side would suit him better so he can cut in his left, but it just doesn't seem to. It doesn't suit him at all.
I get what you mean, and I thought maybe up until 20 minutes, 30 minutes, we played well, and then obviously, as Ross touched upon, we took 1-2 now. The team just fell apart, I thought, and a lot of people do say it's pre-season, don't read too much into it, but again, I'm not banning that kind of narrative because this is the last pre-season game, and we're heading into this major Champions League qualifier. Dane Murray, Stephen Welsh, not the point to blame at these guys, Ross, but it's what the situation they find themselves in. Again, it's made by the Celtic board by not strengthening these positions earlier. Is it a concern for you seeing how badly, now before we move on to Barcast, but how badly exposed we were, especially after just one simple ball over the top?
Aye, it's concerning, of course it is. But, I mean, it was basically a story of an experienced operator in Antonio making our basically young defensive pairing look what they are, very inexperienced. And as you say, it's no slant on the boys. They gave their all. But again, it only highlights more how much we need guys like Starfelt and amongst others to be in the team as soon as possible. But I mean, you can't. I think that the only saving grace really is that team on Saturday will probably be a far cry for what the team will be going forward when we're well into the season, if you like. Obviously, that too is not going to be our defensive pairing for the majority of the season, barring injuries or whatever. But aye, they were certainly exposed big time, and they looked like what they were, as I said, very inexperienced. But West Ham are a good side, and they've got seasoned professionals who essentially they were clinical and took their chances every time they were in, and they were in a lot, by the way. But it's concerning how easily we were opened up. But I hold on to the saving grace that won't be our back line moving forward in the next maybe month or two.
Isn't that sort of like a frustrating thing for you, Ross? Because every year we're in this position, regardless of management structures or management teams within the club. It seems to be these Champions League qualifiers come around. Everyone knows what positions we need strengthened, but yet we're going to gamble £40 million. Now, that's to say if we get that far and not drop into the group stage Europa League, but still there's money involved. And we're kind of expecting the likes of Dane Murray and Stephen Welsh to carry us to them sort of heights. Now, I do not think that's a bit detrimental to the likes of Dane Murray, because if you have a bad game for Celtic on a high European level stage, that's surely going to dent your confidence going forward.
Aye, of course, but he hasn't had a bad game for Celtic on a high European stage. He had a bad game for Celtic in a friendly. But I mean,
but what I'm saying is he's 18 years old. He shouldn't be expected to be through into these games.
No, absolutely not. But and I take your point. Like in previous seasons, for a good number now, we have gambled on these qualifiers. But I think this year, it's more to do with the timing issue. And I know we shouldn't have let Eddie Howe do what he done or whatever, right? But it's happened. I think it's more a timing issue now, and a sort of window of getting players in. It's just not been enough time, because I think this new regime, on evidence so far, are going to back the manager and they're wanting to get players in, but they've just not had enough time to get the players in for this qualifier. And that coupled with working within COVID guidelines, and I know every other club is in the same boat, but it's very difficult. And I wouldn't say they're gambling this year. I just think that the way it's panned out, and it was a whole fiasco, but the way it's panned out, we are where we are now, and I don't think it's because they're gambling. I just think it's because they've not had enough time.
No, that's fair. I get your opinion. I mean, a lot of people would see it as in terms of Celtic have kind of under-prepared again, and as you pointed out there, the Eddie Howe debacle went on for, months longer than it should have. But coming to yourself, Francis, here, in terms of the defence and the team that we got beat 6-2, we can't hide away from that. And it's like you throw Ralston into the mix there. It's a bunch of young guys, and then you're kind of dependent on, much like I said to Ross, is it a concern for yourself that we're kind of putting these guys in the Midtjylland game? And I know, again, COVID guidelines and stuff, but from my point of view, if what they said about Postecoglou in terms of they were scouting this guy for months as potential to come in instead of Eddie Howe, surely when they give him that phone call, be like, right, get a few players in mind and we'll get them signed straight away. No?
No, I totally take on board your point, but I mean, to go back as well, it was all transparent. It's like we're led to believe that Postecoglou was in the framework long before he was actually. We all heard about it, so we don't. That could just be Celtic saving face saying that he was in the plan months and months ago. We really don't know. I think I get both arguments here from yourself and Ross. I'm slightly leaning towards Ross simply as I want to stay positive, Stephen, because I do believe that we are gambling again this season again, but also I think it is. I don't think it's as much as previous seasons simply due to where we find ourselves. Obviously, how we've came around getting the new manager and obviously the COVID guidelines try to get folk in. The Euros obviously sort of are only finished a couple of weeks and we're kicking off our football season really with the qualifiers. So there has been a lot of factors, like mitigating factors, came into it. But I'm trying to be positive and say it's more sort of for the world we're living in now. The reason it's happened so slow. But I think one positive I think I can take from getting beat 6-2, albeit in a friendly, is maybe the board will look, because obviously a lot of the board members are still there, have been under previous managers. Maybe they'll maybe look at it and go, that's a bit of a wake up call here. The managers, I feel Postecoglou's been quite smart in a good way with some of his interviews and stuff, and he's putting wee sort of phrases in there that's but like sort of wee digs to the side to the board to say, come on, let's get the finger out here. So yeah, it's I can get both sides of the argument, Stephen, but I'm trying to side with Ross to stay positive on it.
Oh, I mean, you have to grant me one thing. It did start the show with two positives, the Celtic goals. I mean,
yeah, no.
The rest of
By
it.
the way, I take your argument as well, Stephen. I'm just trying to, a bit like Francis, looking at fair more positive sort of frame of mind, like / side of the argument, if you like. But I totally take on board what you're saying as well.
It's a bit like, I mean, I get what you guys are saying. Like, don't get me wrong, pre-season, fair enough, but 6-2 at home against any club at any sort of time is a bit of a shambles. Be honest, like.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's never nice to see.
Absolutely, it was really, really bad how easily we were beaten on Saturday. But I think you could say that the young guys' heads went down, which is fair enough, and it's up to Postecoglou to lift their heads for Wednesday. But I mean, there was positives in the game. Even though we got beat 6-2, you could say we did play well going forward. Our passing was crisper and sharper. I don't think we were ever absolutely outplayed in the game at any point. I just think that West Ham were, our defence was found wanting with a bunch of young guys playing against seasoned footballers. But I think we're playing with a purpose again and a clear plan, and we're just probably lacking a bit in personnel just now. But I believe the personnel is coming. You have to believe that, because otherwise, what are we doing, But
I mean, I get what you mean. Like, West Ham, you're right. They finished sixth in the Premier League last season, as you said. A bunch of professional guys, knows what they're doing, knows what style they're implemented it for a couple of years now under David Moyes. But it was frustrating watching it. And you, Francis, you made a point there about the board waking up, maybe going, this is a wake-up call. You have to ask yourself the question, why does it take these kind of defeats? Now, this happened previous seasons as well. They still didn't do nothing. So what makes you confident they're going to change that now?
I'm not saying I'm confident that it's just, and like I say, yeah, it has happened in previous seasons. Situations like this shouldn't need to happen for them to maybe get the finger out, if you like. But it's sometimes these things they need these things to happen. They might think they're doing all they can. Postecoglou, not just Postecoglou, every manager. It's always, doesn't matter how quick a signing takes to come in the door, it's always too long for a manager at the end of the day. But I don't know why you need, I wouldn't say you need something like this to happen, but sometimes these things happen. It maybe just as a wee thing for any sort of a club or any sort of a board to say, right, we need to actually get get business done quicker, or we need to attempt to get business done quicker and see if there's any way we can do things a lot better and help the manager out, because they said they were going to back the manager, so by all accounts they have to an extent. It's not been as quick as I think. Well, it's not been as quick as Postecoglou wants, and probably not as quick as us as fans really want. But we're just like managers. We want guys in yesterday at the end of the day. So I'm trying to stay confident, Stephen, that they're going to get the right personnel in, because I think it is, like Ross said there, we do seem to have a plan. We just need the personnel to carry out that plan, if you like.
Yeah,
but I don't think. Sorry, so I don't think that they'll be using the West Ham defeat there as a sort of push to go and get players in, because they've already started to address the central defence before that defeat and bringing in Starfelt. So I don't think that's going to, the West Ham defeat is going to be used as a push, because I think they're already doing their work. It's just taking a bit longer than what most people would hope and want. But
I totally agree. I know, totally agree. I just think things like that can sort of give the manager a wee bit more power and say, look, we need to get there quicker. We need to get there quicker than that. He can maybe use it to his advantage. That's maybe a better way of putting it.
I think what the West Ham game shows as well, with definitely another centre half. There's no question for me. We need Starfelt plus another 100%. I mean, absolutely. If anything,
sorry, Stephen. On you go.
If anything, we need it for experience more than anything, because you've got Welsh, you've got Dane Murray, and then I know we'll have Julian and Starfelt and someone else to come in just to round it up. I know it's 4 or 5, but do you know what I mean? We do need that. And
we don't know when Julian's coming back, do we?
That's very true. Just to get your guys' opinion before we move on to other matters. I know he's a new player and everyone's kind of grasping at him and stuff, and we've seen him in 2 appearances, but I have to give a shout out to Abada. I think Ross, he's been excellent in the games I've seen him in. I know he got took off basically before half time against Midjtylland because Beaton got sent off, but even in that short time and against West Ham, I just thought he brings a different dimension to the team. There was a point in the very first 5 minutes in the game, him and Edward linked up well, and he was just bombing down the right hand side, taking players on, whipping cross balls in, hitting shots and stuff. It's refreshing to see, isn't it?
Aye, it definitely is. I've liked the look of him so far. I like his directness, and like you said, he's added a different dimension to the team, a dimension that the team was absolutely screaming out for last season. He hugs that touchline all the time, and then all of a sudden he just drives inside, or he drives for the byline, and he's another guy like Christie who is geared up for Angie's style. I have been very impressed with him and the limited time that we've seen him, and he's also scored a goal in that time as well. So there's absolutely no complaints, and he looks well worth the money that we paid for him.
Yeah, I have to agree. What about yourself, Francis?
Nah, totally agree. It's just, I think it was yourself that said it the other day, Stephen, that he's a like a wee bit of throwback. Just he predominantly wants to get down to the byline and crosses, and just an old school winger, if you like. But like Ross said, he will come inside. His first thought is go forward. But like Ross said, he hugs the touchline, so he's keeping the park wide, and then obviously that itself opens up space in the middle of the park. So even if he's not on the ball, he's affecting the game by the fact that he's that far wide and just hugging the touchline. But and obviously the goal, he obviously looked fairly confident last week in the first leg against Midjtylland. Goal would obviously help with that. Yeah, he had to come off because of the tactical change, but again he gets flung in against West Ham and had a decent showing. So he's probably flying now. I can't zero complaints about the guy now, and I think he'll be actually like I say, I think he'll be flying his cell now.
So far the signs are good. Now you're going to see a bit of a theme here. What I've done, I've put the positive in. It's going to be followed up by a negative. Usually it's you follow a negative with a positive, but I'm doing it the other way around. So we're going to move on to the goalkeeping scenario. Barkas again has come in for much criticism. I mean, I try and defend him I get erupted in our group chat and everything after the West Ham game, me still defend them. But I'm not going to lose all hope yet, but I want to hear your guys' opinion before I give mine. Now, he did make 2 good saves, one-on-ones. He did make saves, and Chris Sutton in the commentary said this could be the making of him. I mean, it definitely wasn't. But coming to yourself, Ross first here, Barkas, is it a no from you?
Oft. The biggest NO you'll ever see in your life for me. But I mean, like you say, you have to give credit where credit's due, and he did have a couple of good early stops, 1-on-ones that probably wouldn't have looked out of place in his YouTube reel for his Athens days. But I mean, the Antonio one was probably more of a poor finish, but he still had to make the save. The Lanzini one's a very good save, 1-on-one. He stays up, makes his sail big, but he just sort of reverts back to type with that second goal for West Ham, where I mean, again, okay, he was exposed by his defence, but his positioning was one of the worst I've ever seen. It was so bad, man. I don't like. He was so far over. It just wasn't true. But I mean, in my opinion, and I said it I'm sure I said it in the group last week. I personally think if we don't bring in a replacement for Vasilius Barkas before the end of this transfer window, then I don't think it really matters who else we sign. And I didn't say this lightly, and I don't like to say it, but I think if we continue with him, I think it's going to be highly unlikely that we win that title back off the Rangers. I think that he costs us 15 points a season rather than gains us that. You didn't win league titles at any level with a poor, unreliable keeper, and that's what he is. It's a fact of football. It's been proven time and time again for me. I just think it is a matter of urgency for me that he is replaced sooner rather than later.
I mean, that picture has been doing the rounds, Ross, as you said, that positioning where they have him basically coming out and he's kind of still in the centre of his goal. It's horrendous, and I have to admit that myself. And I've been the one kind of been a Barkas cheerleader, so to speak. I've been saying there's a goalkeeper in him. I do believe it, but I've had a wee bit of time to calm down after the weekend, after the wee argument we had in their group chat, and I've looked at the goals again. Well, the ones he was on for anyway. I mean, yes, he did.
Sorry, Steve, can I ask you, because on the last podcast, John asked you this, and you didn't actually answer it. He asked you, is Barkas good enough? And you answered it where you believe he will be our number one going forward. But I have to agree with that. I think he probably will be, and that's a scary thought. But I have to ask you, honestly, based on what he's done in a Celtic jersey, do you think he's good enough to be our number one? Like, and I know why, because I just don't. I don't see how anybody can make a case for him anymore. And I know you're saying that, but I don't see how anybody could make a case for him after 2 months of last season. Personally,
I mean, I do believe he's going to be Celtic's number one goal forward. Moving on, no, we're joking. I think, I mean, the good enough question, right? I didn't actually hear John saying that. Probably me not concentrating, but I mean, I do. Is he good enough? What we've seen in Celtic, definitely not. I have to agree with that. But I put that much down to the coaching he received last season, adjusting to a different climate, and in the pre-season games we've seen this season, by and large, he's looked all right. I mean, he's kind of adapted to the Postecoglou style of things, and I think sometimes Celtic supporters in general kind of look at Barkas as a scapegoat for every goal that's conceded, instead of looking at every kind of possibility to stop that goal, whether it's defending errors, midfield errors, or losing it from the front. You look at the goals. I mean, we did concede 6, but when I went through Twitter, you thought Barkas was the villain of the world. I do genuinely believe. Yeah, I do genuinely believe, Ross. I don't think Celtic are going to get another goalkeeper. That's me being serious about my opinion. Anyway, he will be number one. He's not been good enough. No, I'll give you that. But we've spent £5 million on him, and no club's going to give us that back. I mean, especially on the form he's on at the moment. And is he good enough? Short answer, no. But will he remain at Celtic? Short answer, yes.
By the way, I would have to agree with that. Like, I think he probably will be our number one going forward. But like you say, he's no good enough to be, and it's a scary thought that he is going to be in goal. And I really fear for us if he's going to be the man that's tasked with keeping the ball out of our net.
Now, I know, Francis, I mean, you said last week in the pod that you're not off the Barcast train yet because I said to you about that and you said you weren't firmly off it. But I'm guessing after this weekend's performance, you're kind of off it on a different platform.
Not quite, but I'm getting close. I'm getting close to getting on. My stop's coming soon, I think. I think my stop's coming soon, Stephen. It's like, I mean, the still picture that we're seeing is absolutely horrendous. But
Yeah.
still pictures can look bad when he's about two. By the time Antonio takes his shot, he's about 2 yards closer there. So he's about in the middle of the goal as opposed to the faraway post in the still picture. But yeah, his possession for it is just horrendous, and it's like they're just clear and obvious errors, and I think that's half the problem with it. It's like me and you, well, you more so now, are still trying to back the guy, and you're going, it just gets to the next game, and you're like, oh, he's done it again, he's just hugged me out to dry again. It's like, I think it was the last Celtic and Rangers game last season where I made the case for the infamous Laxall, and we never seen it. We never seen it. He had the worst 45 minutes I think a professional football player played, and it was like you never seen him again in another Celtic jersey. So I do like used to. I think he will be Celtic's number one going forward, but also, like I said in the last podcast, I would not be against Celtic getting a keeper. I would maybe be an advocate for them getting one, and just because, like Ross said, good goalkeepers win your leagues. It's just that as a fact of football, they do win your leagues. I understand your argument from a previous podcast where you said a good defence in front of them might give confidence, but you can also flip that and say a trusty good keeper gives confidence to the defence. So it's a hard one. If we can get a good defence in, I might stay on the train a wee bit longer, but where we are now, it's my stop's coming soon, Stephen. I've got to admit.
Yeah. But see, genuine question to both of you, right? I'll come to yourself, Ross, first. I touched upon what I said. Do you not think that fans kind of pigeonhole him for everything? I mean, whether it's a goal, it's a cracking goal, Barca should have got it. Whether it's a headed goal, Barca should have got it. A defensive error, Barca should get it. Do you not think he's kind of being scapegoated a wee bit?
I think there probably is an element of that. Personally, no for me, because I mean I've obviously already praised him for his early saves in the West Ham game, but they're saves that he should be making. I don't think Barkas, and when I say he wins, like a keeper that wins you 15 points, is like a keeper that makes a save that he's no right making, or like a game where you're struggling and you're maybe drawing 0-0, and then your keeper pulls out a worldie, and then he's got a late goal. That's the sort of saves that I don't think Barkas brings to the table. I just think if we can, and I know it's probably no viable, but if we can get a Forster or anybody for that matter,
no chance,
it'll be an improvement. Then I think we have to make it happen. I don't understand why you're so against Forster. I know that you've said. Sorry,
we're meant to be looking forward as a club, Ross. We can't keep going back to people who's had a connection with Celtic. Foster didn't want to come last season, and this season, fair enough, he might be available for transfer. But I'm going to revert back to what I said, Ross. For me, anyway, he will not suit the way Postecoglou plays, and I can't see Postecoglou compromising his style for one player. I just can't see it.
I don't think he needs to, though. I'm not saying Forster will come, right? But if the option was there, then I personally would take it, even if it was for a season, just to get us, hopefully get us this, help us get this league title and the automatic qualification. But to come sort of back at you on the Forster Disney suit Postecoglou style, Rodgers came in to Celtic and he didn't think Craig Gordon fitted his style. He dropped him. He brought in De Vries, and then quickly realised that actually Craig Gordon's a better goalie than De Vries. He brought Gordon back in, and then he won 2 trebles under Rodgers' watch. And Gordon maybe wasn't totally suited, but he adjusted to an extent. So why can't Forster?
I think there's a key difference, to be honest with you, Ross. I mean, Craig Gordon, he wasn't used as a sweeper keeper. He didn't see him on the halfway line. All Craig Gordon had to really learn and adjust to was passing it from the back. Where Barkas or Forster, if it happens, they need to be able to run, get involved with play, high up the pitch, not make mistakes. So there's plenty of other variables to put in there.
Foster doesn't make many mistakes. What does he? So that's one thing he's got.
Just that, first and foremost, I want the guy to keep the ball at the net, and Barkas doesn't do that. So you can't make a case for Barkas fitting his style if he's not keeping the ball at the net. I would rather maybe Foster struggled a wee bit and had to drop back slightly in Angie's style. I don't think your keeper needs to be as far up the park as what it's maybe going to be expected. But I mean, I take your point, but I just think that I'm just obviously so against Barkas that
never a guest.
I think one of the most frightening things about Postecoglou is I think if our team scores 4 and they score 3, he won't really care, Francis. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the way he likes to play football.
I wouldn't, because if that's the way you go about the season, you wouldn't like it. If you score more goals than your opposition, you wouldn't like it. Then it'd be exciting to watch.
But what's your opinion on what I said to Ross about fans kind of pigeonholing and scapegoating Barkas at the minute?
Yeah, but fans will always do that, and it's Barkas doesn't help himself because, like I said earlier, his errors are clear and obvious ones. Like just going recently back to the Midjtylland one, by the count, it looks like he pulls his hands out the way. Then the West Ham one, he's totally out of position. It's stupid with errors, and some of the goals that just look like I would never say he's not tried, but he's kind of gone down in stages and stuff. And it's just like some of the goals he has conceded, they don't help, and so that's why folk will pick up on him. And it's when you concede a lot of goals, it's that the type of keeper he's been for us, or lack of a keeper. It's easy to kind of point the finger at him because you're just going, well, it must be Barkas. So it will be sort of folk will just use him as a scapegoat, but at the same time, there's a reason. I'm not saying every goal is his fault, but there's a reason folk use him as a scapegoat, because guys like James Forrest in the past have been used as a scapegoat, then suddenly he was injured, and last season a lot of the fans that used him as a scapegoat realised that he wasn't. Now, if Barkas could do something like that, then I'm struggling for him, Stephen. I'm struggling to be on side with him.
I mean, Barkas is like that song, though, that "It Wasn't Me" song. Just every chorus, "It wasn't me." But look, moving on to the last sort of point about the match I want to speak about, and that's Leigh Griffiths. I mean, obviously, it's been a contentious issue for everyone involved around Celtic. I mean, podcast groups alike kind of addressing it, and obviously he's been cleared of any criminal activity. That's fair enough, but for me anyway, I was against Leigh Griffiths getting a new contract, so my opinion doesn't really change. I don't think he should be at the club. For me, he hasn't done anything to merit being the club, and obviously added into the fact of off-field drama. This is 2 pre-seasons in a row where he's kind of been the centre of attention. And for me, for Postecoglou, I think anyway, it's a kind of a circus he doesn't need around him. Ross, would you not agree with that?
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. But I think that, like we've touched on before, he was given that new contract more out of necessity as regards because of the personnel we had, rather than whether he deserved to be there. I think that's all that was, really.
Yeah, I mean, what's your opinion on, obviously, I mean, yes, he's been cleared of any wrongdoing, that's fair enough, but Celtic fans will kind of judge you. That's the truth. They're judged during execution when it comes to things like this. And not even add into the fact that, I mean, look at it as well. If we go to away grounds, if they're filled, it could be even worse kind of things being chanted from the stands. And, like, for me, the booing, I have to admit with you guys, I probably would have booed as well. Now, the reason why is because added up to everything, this has been 4 years of Griffiths basically being unavailable for Celtic. He had that golden period when he scored 40 goals on the run he did. Yeah, fair enough. He comes on the pitch and he does score some goals. I mean, I think he scored like 6 or 7 last season. But I come to yourself, Ross, again. Do you think that his time should be up? Obviously, the Celtic supporter divided, and it's hard, but you can't have a divided support going into this season, especially with Postecoglou's first season.
I mean, I totally take your point there, but for me, and it's quite a contentious subject, so you sort of try to tread carefully. But for me, anyone who wants to boo a Celtic player every time he touches the ball, I just think they shouldn't be allowed back inside Parkhead. That sort of behaviour, if you like, is alien to me. And I mean, I know, like you've said, he hasn't been great for a while, and he's had countless chances. But as soon as you pull on the hoops and are playing for the cause, you should never ever be booed. I mean, by all means, voice your frustrations on a player's performance with like expletives. If you want to do that, whatever way, like that type of thing happens in every ground across the country on a weekly basis. But you can't be booing your own players every touch. And I accept he faced some serious allegations, but there's been a thorough investigation, and he's been deemed that there's no case to answer by the responsible authorities. Don't get me wrong, he's once again been an absolute naive idiot, to say the least. But I'm trying to watch what I'm saying here. But a lot of people, without the facts, and they don't have all the facts, are taking the moral high ground for me, and they're giving him a very dangerous label. This sort of siege, out with the pitchforks mentality, I feel is unfair. When you've sort of formed the opinion, if you like, on minimal facts, it can push someone down a very dangerous road mentally.
I think Ross as well. What it shows. I mean, I said it to you guys. Obviously, it is a contentious issue, but again, it's surrounding Celtic, and I kind of need spoke about instead of left there. I mean, but what it does show, even on our podcast, we're divided, and it's okay to be divided in what way you see things. And as you said, he's been clear to the 40s and stuff, but I'm kind of basing my argument around of what he's been available for the last 4 seasons, which is 0-0, quite honestly. And then added to the fact last pre-season he didn't get took away because he was unfit. This pre-season, obviously, the online behaviour came into account there, Francis. But what's your opinion on it?
I'm totally against folk booing, but to an extent, due to like obviously, like I'm trying to tread careful, but with the Griffiths situation, a wee bit of me would maybe not like wee bit of me understands the booing, but not every touch. I don't agree with every touch. Like it's quite hard when I don't agree with booing, but maybe if they booed, like try and let hear me out. Maybe if they booed when he came on as a frustration thing. I hope if this carries on, it's the Celtic fans should not be anywhere near it. We don't need fans booing you every week, like, and as soon as you touch the ball. I'm hoping this is just got to be a one-off. That's it, sort of it's done. They've vented their frustration to let Leigh Griffiths know that, look, you've got to. This is again, you're letting the club down, and or it's I don't. You can't really say he's let the club down when he's not been found guilty of any charges and stuff. So it's maybe just like Ross said, folk taking the moral high ground. Yeah. But it's maybe just. I'm hoping it's just a section of fans saying, look, we're actually losing patience with your sort of behaviour or the sort of the media attention you're bringing to the club and stuff. So if it, like, I'm really hoping and praying that it doesn't carry on going forward, because it's just got to help nobody, because we're all in agreement. A fit and firing Griffiths is a guy you want your team, but like you say, he's not really been a fit and firing Griffiths for a few seasons now. But just to kind of touch on something that you said as well about wanting him away and stuff, obviously, but going to away grounds, that we can't control behaviour of away fans. We can only control the behaviour of our own fans. So you've just got to hope the authorities and stuff that are at games, if there's certain chance towards Leigh Griffiths, you hope they then do their job, the authorities then do their job there and deal with them, because like we said, the guy's been proven not guilty of any of these allegations by the police. So it's I can understand some of the booing to an extent, but I hope it's a one-off, because I'm like Ross, when you pull on that jersey, it's you've got to support the team regardless.
Yeah, I mean,
so I think we also have to acknowledge that the booing on Saturday wasn't because of how poor he's been the last 3-4 seasons, how he's not turned up. It was to do with this other thing that's
allegation.
at him and been. I mean, for me, the authorities have dealt with the matter, and I don't believe for 1 second if there was even a smidge of legal wrongdoing, they would let it slide. He's maybe done something morally wrong. We don't know, but if there was a smidge of legal wrongdoing, they wouldn't let it slide in such a delicate subject. And for me, taking all that into account, the booing, in my opinion, was shameful. And let's not forget, by the way, that the club itself is satisfied enough with the investigation and everything surrounded it to allow him to represent us again. That alone, for me, should be enough for our support.
But I think as well, Ross, I'll take into consideration there that the reason he's probably there now is necessity. I think Postecoglou summed it up perfect when he was asked about the subject of fans booing, that he said he wouldn't say to them, stop it. They know more about Celtic than he does, and I think that's fair enough. And I don't really understand, like, just for the final point, obviously, I don't understand why there's a big uproar from Celtic certain sections about people voicing their opinion. I think what Francis said is kind of spot on. If they booed him when he came on as frustration, fair enough. Maybe every touch was a bit excessive, but just voice your opinion in a way that can be heard. But again, it's a difficult situation, yes, but Celtic support, regardless of what it is, will always be your judge, and you have to represent the club both morally, personally, and on the pitch as a professional. And Leigh Griffiths hasn't, for me, lived up to them expectations. But look, we'll move on to Postecoglou's post-match interview. And I'll come to yourself, Ross, for this one first. You sent in the quotes to our podcast group chat. Was it something you were kind of refreshed by, what he was saying?
Aye. I think every time I hear the guy speaking, I'm totally refreshed by him. His honesty, everything, he's full aura. People sort of read into it sometimes that he's maybe looks a bit negative, but I just don't think he's sort of arsed with that side of it, but he handles it really well. I thought the interview itself, I thought he summed things up well in terms of the game. Excuse me. He never really throws them under the bus. It's a sort of like we're in it together sort of thing. I like how he said he wasn't going to go hiding and he doesn't expect the players to. I think that sort of shows he's willing to take responsibility for whatever happens, regardless of the shitty hand he's been dealt so far in the early part of his tenure, unlike his predecessor, by the way. But I mean, and all whilst working within the COVID guidelines. But the final part of the interview, I absolutely loved to bits. He said, I'm going to sort of read the sort of quote for the end of the interview. He said, I'm not about keeping people happy. If they're not happy here, then they can move on. Representing this football club should give you a joy and a happiness. I'm not an entertainer. I'm here to hopefully create a culture that maintains the values and traditions of this club and also brings success. I'm not interested in people being happy. That was, to me, and should be to all Celtic supporters, music to your ears. Mr. Dobbin, Willie, he on the podcast, he's a great advocate of that sort of thinking. And if I'm totally honest, I thought Willie had done a Sam Wheaton took over Angie's body at that point. It was just like, but he summed the whole game up. Everything about the interview was perfect, and that last bit that I sort of read to you, just like, I just loved that. It's perfect.
Yeah, I think it's refreshing as well. I mean, that line about not being there to keep people happy, that's brilliant to me, because it just points to yourself, Francis, that he's not going to take no shit. He's not going to take no prisoners. If players don't want to be there, they won't be involved. And I think he actually, in the interview as well, that he just comes across the type of guy that the press can't get the better of as well. Do you get that opinion?
Yeah, I think we've been fairly vocal on that, saying that he seems to have the media's number a wee bit, and I don't think they're liking him for it, in a sense. They are asking him, or trying to ask him, difficult questions for him to answer, and he seems quite a witted manner. He's definitely an intelligent man, because he's answering all the questions without really getting his selling bother, or in such a manner that they can't really follow it up with something to say, but what about this, what about that? It's just I've got a list of reasons why I keep liking him. It's just this interview is another one. He just saying, well, there's reason 257 why you should like Hans Postecoglou. It's every time the man speaks, he has got that aura about him, and we were told he was sort of a Bielsa type, a guy that maybe doesn't want to take any rubbish off the media. And I think Saturday was a wee hint to that he's not got to take any rubbish from the media and any players that don't want to be there, because the wee sort of a quote that Ross read off, I think that's maybe a wee sort of a wee message to some of the players that maybe are still maybe not all fully committed to the team, or maybe looking elsewhere. And so I think it's one of them, just to say, look, well, if you're with me, you're with me. If you're no, then I'm actually not giving two hoops about you. You can sit here and sulk and collect a wage. That's not his problem about who's getting paid and whatever. But if you're not happy, if you've got one choice, you can sit there and moan about it or get to, really.
Yeah, and that's what we need. We need to clear out the deadwood who are just picking up a wage. I think the likes of Midjtylland kind of fall into that bracket now, because although he said he's going to keep him on, he hasn't really featured since he said that, so that's not really a good sign for him. But look, as we know, on Wednesday evening, we'll be getting into the second leg of the Champions League qualifier. Currently 1-1 against FC Midtjylland, and Celtic are in Denmark as we speak. Now, coming to yourself, Ross, first. I mean, obviously, the weekend's game doesn't really give us much to cling on for, but the first game against Midtjylland certainly does. The way we played, the way we kind of took it to them. We were in their half most of the game. Obviously, the send-off changed that, but when they went down to 10 men, we kind of got back into the game as the dominant force. Are you confident that we can pick up a result over in Denmark?
Aye, I definitely am. I mean, I think we've got a great chance. It's 1 each at half time, basically, and like you say, I think we showed more than enough in the first game to give us belief. I honestly think, going off the last game, that we looked the better team, and I think we can come through the tie, providing Barkas doesn't act like a crazy person. But I think we've got enough, even in our sort of threadbare. When they say our 11 is, it's not threadbare, but it's not perfect.
Oh,
it's not
threadbare.
The defence is. The defence is threadbare, but I think, like, for the midfield onwards, it's almost what you would want it to be, give or take 1 or 2. But I think we can take the game to them and pick up a result. I really believe that.
I mean, as you said, like, confidence going into this game, yes. Picking up a result, yes. But again, there's so many other factors, Francis, isn't there? It's like, how the defence going to perform, because we kind of know now that Dane Murray will be starting alongside Welsh, and they kind of got ripped to shreds. And much like the press of the game as well, with Scott Sinclair and Chet Evans, they took them round the ringer too. So it just shows the more experienced are going to have the better these guys, and that's the harsh reality of it, Francis. And going forward, I mean, you're probably looking at the likes of Eddie starting again. Eddie wasn't involved in the West Ham game. Adaba's going to start in the right, possibly. Christie's definitely going to start. Turnbull. I mean, middle to front, I think we're decent. We're good going forward. Still a few improvements needed there. But are you confident yourself going into this game we can kind of get through this round?
Yeah, because it's pretty much what I believe the back five, if you like, if you include Barkas, is going to be the same one that played the majority of the game last week. So there's no reason not to be confident. Obviously, the West Ham game, it's not great for the back four and Barkas, but in all due respect to Midtjylland, they're no West Ham. They've not got a big battling striker like Mikel Antonio, and they've not got like 25-pound players in is it Ben Dwee or something that doesn't never really got a kick of the ball. Ben Rama didn't really get a kick of the ball last season, and guys like Lanzini and that Argentinian international. So just simply going on last week's performance, there's no reason not to go into the game confident. As I say, well, pretty much like Dane Murray and Stephen Welsh had a really great game. So the Midtjylland players will maybe look at them and go, well, we really need to be up for this to get a sniff, because by account Stephen Welsh gave them absolute 0 last week. So
yeah, he did brilliant.
They'll be looking at it going, well, we need to be in a top-tier game to get by these young boys, because we struggled last week. So there's two ways to look at the defence. We all agree that we would prefer different personnel in there, especially just the sort of essential defence thing. But Midjtylland can't necessarily be confident going, we've got their number really, because they never last week.
I mean, I'm going to throw a curveball at you, so come to yourself, Ross, for this. Now, Liam Shaw, William, a big fan of Liam Shaw. He's kind of said it in all the podcasts he's been on previously in regards to pre-season performances. Do you think there might be a shout for him to start instead of Dane Murray? I know he can play centre back, or do you think he should just keep it at status quo with just include Dane Murray?
I don't think he would come into that central pairing. I think if anybody did it, would maybe be Uragide. But I don't know if like Shaw has featured. He featured at the start of the pre-season, and to be honest with you, I hadn't seen really any of the games at the very start, so I can't give a proper opinion. But William, he's been very vocal about how good he looked. Does he get into that sort of midfield at the moment? For me, not having seen him, it's a difficult one. But I think, as regards the central pairing of the defence, I don't think he would slide into that before young Murray.
Yeah. What about yourself, Franny? We just keep it the same? Keep Dane Murray in there?
Yeah, Dane Murray, or like Ross said, Uragide, but I know we shouldn't really necessarily think about the concept, but it might not do Dane Murray's confidence that much great if you then drop him off the back of the West Ham game. And then you just he's obviously fancies Dane Murray over Uragide now. So yeah, I think it will be Welsh and Uragide in there, and I think that's the way to go, because I know, like you say, Shaw can play there, but he's predominantly a defensive midfielder. And we moaned about the last guy that's been playing there and got sent off last week, who's not a central defender. So why are we advocating for another midfielder to go in there?
Yeah.
Did you not know his second? Did you not know he has a free barrel name? So it's Liam Shaw Beaton. I think that's his name. But look, we'll move on. We'll move on to the lineup predictions. Go to yourself, Franny, for this. What have you gone for?
I think it'll be the exact same lineup as they played against West Ham. So with Barkas in goal, a back four of Taylor, Murray, Welsh and Ralston. I think Abada will keep his place because obviously played well in the previous game, then played there. And Forrest, obviously, I don't know where he's at fitness-wise, but maybe Forrest could come in, but I think it will be Abada with Sora and McGregor sitting and Tumble just in front of them with Christie and Edward up front. I think that's me got 11. I've not got it wrote down, but I think that's 11.
What about
I was nearly doing a John there.
What about yourself, Ross?
Similar to Franny. Reluctantly Barkas and goals, just because I think he's better than Bain, and that doesn't say much.
That doesn't say much for Bain.
I know.
For you anyway.
Bain's a number 2. Barkas is a number 1 somewhere, but it's not for us. I would go with a back 4, Taylor, Welsh. I would probably put Uragide in there just because I think he's probably more physical than Dane Murray. Just thinking the away leg, certainly set pieces and stuff, we'll probably face a few of them. I think we'll need maybe that sort of physicality in there. But I wouldn't be adverse to Murray playing. That would be my preference. And then, like Franny, I think Abada will keep his place in the right. Forrest, he's going to be on the bench, and he's a great option to have on the bench. Christie on the left for me with Turnbull, McGregor and Sorrow, and then Edward up top his cell.
Yeah, I'm not even going to bother reading mine out because it's the same as Francis, apart you're one of your giddies, he's coming, but I'm the same as Francis in terms of lineup. And score predictions, I'll go first. I'm going to go, I had it in my head there. I'm going to go 2-1 Celtic, Turnbull to get 1, and Abada. What about yourself, Ross?
I'm going to go 2-1 Celtic as well, and I'll go Christie to get 1 and Abada.
2-way players on the score sheet. Love that. What about yourself, Francis?
I've got a 2-1 as well, but I'm Christie as well. I think he's flying now, and then I think Edward will maybe just come a light now.
And needs something to light his trunks on fire to get him playing, don't you?
If he wants this move,
that brings us to the end of the show. But don't worry, the quiz is back this week, so you guys aren't getting off the hook. It's the same process. Same process as always. 5 questions. First to 3. Whoever answers the most. Blah blah blah. Are you trying to get started?
Go for it.
I'm just going to wave the white flag now because of my delay. But go.
Right. Question 1. Can you name the first ever Celtic?
Is it a Celtic quiz or?
It's a Celtic one. Celtic.
Right. Okay.
You should probably still lose. Don't worry. Question 1. Can you name the first ever Celtic manager never to have played for the club?
Gordon Strachan.
Nope.
Oh no! Whoa! I'm just.
Billy Mealy. Don't know.
No, never to have played for the club. One more guess.
What? Never to have played. Did you say?
Yeah.
Jansen.
No, move on. User. It was Liam Brady. Right.
I was going to say that, but I thought I had.
Question 2. Which player made a record 822 appearances for Celtic in all competitions?
Well, McNeil.
Yeah, 1-0 Franny. Thank God when he's got that right. Question 3. Who did Celtic sign for 100,000 in May 1983? This player made 204 appearances in all competitions and scored 126 goals over 4 seasons. I think he played for United. I'm not too sure, but the name rings a bell. I know who he is, obviously. No. It begins with B. Yeah, 2-0 Franny. Question 4. In 1997, Wim Jansen became manager. Ironically, he was member of which club side that defeated Celtic in the 1970 European Cup final in Milan? Yeah, Franny brings it home 3-0.
Come on. Me there.
He did there, us.
Like it,
Ross, you end up speaking like a chipmunk when you're on these quizzes. I can't even hear you. But guys, I mean, lots to talk about there. Have you enjoyed this one?
It was good,
Yeah, I enjoyed it, mate.
Yeah. And to everyone who's listening, as John always alludes to in the last previous podcast, we are going to be going video soon. So stay tuned for that. I'll be making an announcement on all the social pages when that's happening. But hopefully it's within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So something to look forward to. And I forgot to say this last week to everyone who's listening. I'll say it this week. Stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.